Hey, it's Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Let's have some fighting words. In this video, I want to talk about the press conference that took place with Gervante Tank Davis and Romero. And listen, people, it's heating up. This is the reason why I want to see the best fighting the best. Now, I'm not saying Romero is the best, but he's certainly climbing his way up that ladder, and he's also taken out every opponent who's been put in front of him. But this is also a reason why we need to see people fight in their prime. You got two young guys who are physically just in their prime, or at least coming to their prime. But it's good. It's good because you get the same energy. You get the same, like that's what you're getting. If you were to get somebody who was like much older, it's like, I don't really care what that guy's saying. I'm just going to come and I'm going to do my thing. Or you might get two guys who'll be in there and say, well, you might get somebody who just isn't much of a talker anyway. But then on top of that, they're a little bit more older, a little bit more seasoned, so it's just like they don't want to have a whole lot to say. They just kind of want to sit back and just, allow this ride to take place and then wait for the night of to do whatever they're going to do. But this is the reason why we invest our money, you and myself as fans. This is the reason why we're going to invest our money. We want to see two guys who want to get in there and want to compete and want to down each other. As much as they was talking about like, I'll do this to you and you're this and you're that. One thing that was very clear is that they respected each other in terms of boxing. I'm not saying they respected each other's skills, but they both mentioned, Tank, for example, said, listen, he must be, at least in the top 6 if he's fighting me and he hasn't lost. Tank Romero in the same way was like, listen, he is one of the top dogs. I can't take that from him. I will on the night of, but right now I can't take that from him. He is like the name and the face of the division, whether we like it or not. So that respect was there. It was the other that really wasn't there. Now, apparently, a lot of their beef stems from like maybe a sparring that took place, in which case that's Rolly's side of the story. It was a sparring. And then there was like an altercation at a fight, or a close to an altercation that happened at a fight. And if you listen to Tank's side of the version, which he didn't really give much of it, however, he made it seem like it was more personal than just a sparring. So maybe there might be some truth to, them possibly coming to blows at a fight. Who knows? The reality is, we're coming close to that night. I cannot wait. One of the things that I was kind of shocked at was I was under the impression Rolly was like a lot taller than Tank. And I know physically they're going to be around the same size because Tank can get pretty big. Like, yeah, he'll fight at 130 or 135, but Tank can walk around about 160, 165. Like, he can get pretty big. So it was kind of, for me, I personally already feel that Tank can beat Romero. I'm not saying that he can't. But what shocked me was the size difference. Rolly's like talking like, oh, he's got these little arms and he's so short. And I'm like, dude, he's like 2 hairs shorter than you are. What are you talking about? Now, granted, Tank had a hat on, and granted, Tank is growing his hair out. He's got like a little mini fro. But still, in terms of sizing, there wasn't a whole lot of difference. I mean, yeah, Tank had like a jacket on and all that stuff, so it's going to make him fill out a little bit more. But overall, Romero will have you believing there's this huge size difference. Now, I do agree with Rolly, when he makes one point, when he says, listen, you're fighting these guys, but they're either really drained or, they're just not in their right weight. Where you're fighting them isn't where they're supposed to be. And this fight will be with somebody who's supposed to be at this weight. So that's what he's banking on. He's banking on the fact that Tank hasn't really fought anybody who at a weight that was their most comfortable fighting weight. And that he also hits hard. He also said that, Tank, they're always talking about his boxing skills. However, he's always, lumped up after a fight. Now, some people just bruise more than others. And it's just a fact, especially when we're talking about skin pigmentation. me being on the darker end, I'm not gonna bruise or visibly show my bruising the way somebody on the lighter end would show. So I get what Rolly's saying, but at the same time, you gotta understand not everybody, shows their bruises the same way. For example, some people are bleeders. Some people cut easy. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're the hardest hitter in the world. It just means that he cuts easily. And then you have people who don't cut at all. So it's just like, it is what it is. If I'm not mistaken, Muhammad Ali never been cut in the ring. So I think it was, Angelo who was like, well, we don't really need the cut man because he's never been cut. He's never been cut in the ring, prior to, I think when Floyd got the cut in the ring, but like it was like a head clash or something like that. And I want to say it's Maidana. I really want to say it's that fight. But you guys, if you know which fight I'm talking about, correct me if I'm wrong. But he didn't need cut men, because he doesn't get cut. And then you have people who just get cut all the time. It rains too hard and they'll just get a cut or whatever the case may be. Some people are just cutters and some people are not. And I think Tank, just like I said, having lighter skin, and he could just possibly be a natural bruiser. He could bruise really easily, but that doesn't mean that he's getting pieced up in a fight. And listen, shout out to Rolly Romero. If that's what's going to help you mentally, then go with that. Go with that notion that, he bruises easily and it's a lack of defense on Tank's behalf. And Tank on the other side, he kept saying, you guys keep banking on power. And he's like, number one, you're not made for the deep waters. You're banking on the fact that you could take me out in 1-4. That's what you're banking on. But he's like, I have more skill than you. And I like that Tank was saying that, because it's easy when you're a knockout guy to just rely on power and strength. But Tank's not doing that. He's like, I understand you might think that's your bread and butter, but what's going to happen, rounds 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'm still here. What are you going to do then? What are you going to do differently? I know the levels that I have within me. And Tank also mentioned, let's see how he reacts under these bright lights. He's like, as lately he's been acting out of character. That's not who he really is. And he says he does all this stuff on social media. You see me face to face, and you're not the same animated person that you are when you're on Instagram. And I mean, but to Rolly's credit, Rolly didn't back up. You gotta understand, he's a fighter too. And he's already signed up on the dotted lines to fight you. So I don't know why, what Tank where he was going with that. But it's I've actually had guys oh, you're this and you're that. And it's just yeah, but we could just fight. You know what I'm saying? It's it's not a problem. We could just fight. We could put our differences aside and we could fight. And then once I win, you can pick your differences back up because I don't really care, but that's the thing about fighting. That's the thing about boxing. Rolly's not scared of Tank. Rolly has been calling for this fight for 2 years. Rolly's not afraid of Tank. But, so it's just interesting how this fight bounces from the ring to the street, from the street to the ring. And Tank's like, listen, if this was something personal, these guys wouldn't be here. In which case, you got Rolly's trainer jumping in, and, Tank's going at it with him as well, just saying, you train trash fighters, and, Romero's no different. And it was some good back and forth banter. I really enjoyed the press conference, and I know I'm going to enjoy the fight. I look forward to this fight. I don't believe I've done a fight breakdown for Rolly, going in against Tank. So maybe that will be the next video I do talking about this particular fight. But that's all I have to say on the press conference with Gervante Tank Davis and Rolly Romero. Please drop your comments down below. And as always, please like, please share, and please subscribe to my channel.